I remember the floor, wide pine boards, worn smooth in the center, the specific smoothness of wood that has had many years of people walking the same path across it. I remember the money on the floor. 3 bills, maybe 4, 20s. They had landed. The way paper lands, when someone drops it from a height, not thrown hard, just released. The specific contempt of not caring where they ended up. I remember my father not picking them up. That is the thing I remember most clearly from that day. My father looked at the money, then he looked at the wall. We had driven from Denver that morning, 5 hours. My father's truck, the kind of truck that is seen enough that no one worries about it anymore. Dents on the passenger side, a crack in the rear window, held together by a strip of tape. He wore his work clothes, the blue jacket with the reflective stripe on the left shoulder, the pants that had paint on them, not from carelessness, but from a specific job 3 years ago. I had wanted him to wear something else. I had not said this. Are we going to buy the house? I asked. Somewhere around Glenwood Springs. We're going to look at it, he said. But are we going to buy it? He was quiet for a moment. That depends on several things. Some of them I control. Some of them I don't. Whose house is it? Right now? A family named Cartwright, 3rd generation. The first Cartwright bought it from the man who built it. Who built it? He looked at the road. Your great-grandfather, he said. The house was at the end of a private road, off Route 82, set back from the road by a stand of aspens, white bark, bare branches, the specific winter quality of trees that are not dead, but are choosing, for now, to look like it. 3 stories. Pine frame. Built in 1923. Inside, the air smelled like old wood and something else. The something else that I would later understand was the specific smell of a house that has been heated by the same kind of fire for 100 years. The man in the black suit was named Julian Vane. He had a person with him, a man with a clipboard, and the specific energy of someone who is very confident about things he is being paid to be confident about. Julian Vane looked at my father. He took in the jacket, the pants with the paint, the truck through the window. This is a private assessment, he said. Invited parties only. I was invited, my father said. The clipboard man went to the main column first. He said, structural crack. Longitudinal split. Approximately 60 centimeters. Indicative of internal deterioration. The column has compromised integrity. Julian Vane nodded at each thing the man said. What's the verdict? Julian said, the building does not meet current heritage standards. The timber framing is degraded. Restoration would cost more than demolition and rebuild. Julian turned to the Cartwrights. This is what I've been saying. The land has value. The structure doesn't. A nightclub, my father said. Julian looked at him. Pardon? The new build. You're planning a nightclub, a mixed-use entertainment venue, he said. Then he reached into his jacket and took out his wallet. Listen, he said, I don't know who you are, or why the Cartwrights felt it was necessary to include a landscaper in a heritage assessment, but I have a meeting with the county at 3. He took out 3 20s. He let them fall. The bills landed on the pine floor and settled, 2 flat, 1 folded slightly at the edge, and he looked at my father and said, get something for the kid, and give us the room. My father did not pick up the money. He looked at it for a moment. Then he looked at the column. Then he walked to the wood, and he put his hand on it, not to test it, the way you put your hand on something, to listen to it. I watched him, and then, I don't know why, I walked to the column. I put my hand next to his. The wood inside the crack was smooth, not rotted, not soft, something else. My father looked at me. You feel that? He said. I didn't know what I felt, but I nodded, and My father crouched down, not to pick up the money. The money was still on the floor. He crouched down to be at my height, the specific crouch of someone who has learned that the distance between faces changes what is heard. He put his finger inside the crack. Look, he said. The wood inside the crack was darker than the outside, not the dark of damage, but the dark of interior, of wood that has never seen direct light. Put your finger in, he said. I did. The edges of the crack were not ragged. They were cut. Not the cut of something broken, the cut of something shaped. What do you feel? He said. It's smooth, I said. Yes. Both sides are smooth. Yes. I looked at him. Cracks aren't smooth, I said. They're not, he said. Cracks are rough, because cracks happen when something fails. This. He moved his finger along the interior edge. This was made. Julian Vane was on his phone. This was the moment my father was crouching beside me, explaining the thing in the wood, and Julian Vane was on his phone. Your great-grandfather built this house in 1923, my father said. He had studied in Europe, Germany, mostly, and he had learned a way of joining wood that most American builders didn't know about. He stood up slowly. He put his hand on the top of the crack and pressed gently. Nothing moved. The column isn't cracked, he said. The column is jointed. This is a mortise and tenon joint built into the vertical member. When the wood expands in summer and contracts in winter, and at this altitude, the difference is significant. The joint moves instead of the wood. The building breathes. He looked at me. If this were a crack, the building would have fallen 50 years ago, because this column is carrying a third of the load of this entire structure. The reason it hasn't fallen, the reason it has stood for 100 years, is because your great-grandfather understood something that most people in 1923 didn't. What? I said. That the wood is alive, he said. Even after it's cut, it still moves. And if you build something that moves with it, you build something that lasts. The clipboard man had stopped writing. My father walked to the next column. I followed him. I put my hand on each column after him, not because he asked me to, but because my hand wanted to know what his hand had learned. Julian finished his phone call. What exactly are you doing? Assessing the structure, my father said. The structure has been assessed. Your team assessed a crack, my father said. I'm assessing the building. Listen, I don't know who you think you are, a man who shows up to a professional assessment in work clothes with a child, but the people in this room who make decisions have made their decision. This building comes down. My father turned to look at him then, really looked at him. There is a piece of knowledge my great-grandfather had. He kept records of it, drawings, specifications, correspondence with the builders he trained. Those records document the joint technique used in this building. They also document who designed this building and why. Those records still exist. Julian. That's very interesting and completely irrelevant. The records document something else, too, he said. Approvision. Standard and heritage agreements of this period. Who holds the original design documents? Holds the right of first purchase. If the property is ever transferred, that provision would have to be verified by the Heritage Council. And the Heritage Council has no representative here. My father looked at the door. I looked at the door. The door opened. He was a tall man. Gray coat. A badge on the lapel that caught the winter light coming through the window as he walked in. Gold against navy. He looked at Julian first, then at the clipboard man, then at my father. Mr. Reeves, my father said. Caleb, Thomas Reeves said. Sorry for the time. The pass. I know. You know each other, Julian said. We've worked together, Thomas said. On what? On buildings like this one, he said. When people find them, and when people know what they've found. My father reached for his bag, and the bag was old, brown leather, the strap worn at the point where it crossed his shoulder, a brass buckle on the front pocket that did not close properly, and had not closed properly. For as long as I had known it, he carried it every day. I had asked him once what was in it. He had said, work things. What kind of work things? The kind you carry with you, in case you need them. Have you ever needed them? He had thought about this. Not yet, he said. I had been 6 then. He set the bag on the table. He undid the buckle. He reached into the bag. He did not hurry. He removed a roll of paper. He unrolled it on the table. The paper was the color of old paper, not white, not yellow, something between the specific color that white paper becomes when it has been kept carefully in a dry place for a very long time. There were lines on it, drawn by hand, the lines of someone who had learned to draw in a time before drawing was done by machines. In the lower right corner, E. Vance, 1923. Thomas Reeves put on a pair of glasses. He leaned over the table. He looked at the drawing for a long time, without speaking. The room was very quiet. Julian Vane was looking at the drawing. He had been looking at it since it was unrolled, and he had not said anything. Thomas straightened. The Colorado Heritage Preservation Act, he said, includes a provision regarding right of first purchase for heritage structures. When a property is listed, as this property has been listed since 1987, the right of first purchase belongs to the party who holds the original design documents, provided they can demonstrate lineage to the original designer and commit to preservation. Julian said, Who are you, exactly? My father reached into his bag again. He placed a card on the table. He placed it next to the drawing, next to E. Vance, 1923. And the two things sat beside each other on the table, in the way that things sit when they have been waiting to be next to each other for a long time. I leaned in to read the card. Caleb Vance, Lead Conservation Architect, National Heritage Institute. I read it twice. Then I read the name, in the corner of the drawing. E. Vance, Caleb Vance, the same name, 70 years apart. I looked at my father. He was looking at the drawing. Your name is the same, I said. Yes, he said, like the drawing. Yes. The E is for what? Elias, he said. Elias Vance, your great-grandfather. He built this house, I said. He designed it. My father said. The joint technique we were looking at earlier, that was his. He developed it. He documented it. He taught it to the men who worked with him. Thomas Reeves said, the right of first purchase has been held by the Vance family. Since 1987, when the property was listed, the right was not exercised. When the Cartwrights purchased the property, because the holder at the time, my father said, he was alive in 2003. He chose not to exercise it. The Cartwrights had been in the house since 1951. He didn't want to displace them, but the right transferred, Thomas said, when he died. 11 years ago. To you, to me. Do you intend to exercise the right? My father looked at the drawing. He looked at me. Yes, he said. The money was still on the floor. Julian Vane looked at the floor. He looked at my father. My father was rolling the drawing carefully, the way he had unrolled it, slowly, with the attention of someone returning something to the place it belongs. Julian looked at his clipboard man. His clipboard man was looking at the column. Julian looked at the floor again. He bent down. He picked up the bills one at a time, not quickly, not with the motion of someone retrieving something valuable, but with the motion of someone doing a necessary thing in the only way it can be done, which is without the posture of dignity, because the posture is no longer available. He put them in his pocket. He did not say anything. I watched him. I was 8 years old, and I was watching a man pick up money he had thrown on the floor, money that had been intended to diminish someone, and I remember thinking, the money looks different now. I didn't have the words for it then. I think the word is weight. The money was heavier on the way up than it had been on the way down. Julian Vane left without shaking anyone's hand. I walked to the main column. I put my hand on it. The wood was cool, inside the joint. The crack that was not a crack. The interior surface was the same as it had been 20 minutes ago. Smooth, precise, made, 100 years old, and still doing the thing it was designed to do. And my father took me through every room. Not quickly. The kitchen first. The ceiling was lower than the other rooms. Heat rises. In the kitchen you want it to stay. Your great-grandfather dropped the ceiling 14 inches in this room because he was thinking about the people who would cook here in January. I looked at the ceiling. He never lived here, I said. Did he? No, my father said. He built it for the Cartwright family. He spent 2 years on this house, and then he left. He moved to Denver. But he came back once a year to check the building, to see how it was aging. I thought about this. A man driving to Aspen once a year to put his hand on walls he had built. Did he bring you? I said. He brought me the first time. When I was 9, he said. He didn't explain much. He just walked me through, the way I'm walking you through. Put his hand on things. Let me put my hand on things. Did you understand? Not then, he said. Later. The second floor. Narrow hallways conserve heat and direct movement. Your great-grandfather studied the way people move through spaces. The hallway tells you where to go, without using words. I walked down it. The floor creaked, in a specific pattern. First board, silence. Third board, silence. Fifth board, every house has a voice. My father said, from behind me. This one has been saying the same thing for 100 years. Dad, I said. Yes. Did you know from the beginning? About today. He came to stand beside me at the window. I knew the right existed, he said. I knew about the provision. I knew Thomas would be here today. I called him 2 weeks ago, when I heard the Cartwrights were considering the sale. But did you know it would work? No, he said. Law is law. It works when it works. Sometimes it doesn't work, even when it should. But today it did. Today it did. He was embarrassed, I said. My father did not answer immediately. It was something, he said. I think he understood the outcome, but not the reason. What is the reason? What do you think? I looked at the mountains. I thought about the crack that was not a crack, about the wood that was alive, about the ceiling in the kitchen that was 14 inches lower, for the people who would cook there in January. The reason is that the house knows, I said. It was not quite what I meant, but it was close enough. My father put his hand on the window frame and nodded once. The small room at the end of the hall was the last one. This was the room he designed last, he said. He kept changing it. The other rooms came easily. This one he redesigned 14 times. Why? He never said. The window moves, the door changes, the ceiling goes up, comes down, goes up again. I looked at the window. It was in the corner. Not centered, but set to one side, so that the light came in at an angle, rather than straight. The angle of the window meant the light fell across the floor, in a long stripe rather than a square. It's warmer, I said. He looked at me. The light, I said, the way it comes in. It hits more of the floor absorbs it. The room is warmer. That's one theory, he said. Is there another? He had a daughter, he said. Your great-great-aunt. She died young, 7 years old, the winter before he started this house. Her favorite time was late afternoon, when the light came in at that angle. I don't know if that's why he put the window there. I don't know if he knew why. But he redesigned the room 14 times, and every version had the window moving toward that corner, and this is where it ended up. The stripe of light lay across the floor. I stood at the edge of it. I put my foot into the stripe. Dad, I said, why did you carry the bag for 11 years without opening it? He thought about the question. The way he thought about questions. That deserved thought. I wasn't waiting for an opportunity, he said. What were you waiting for? You, he said. I didn't understand this. I couldn't bring you when you were small. You wouldn't have understood. There's no point showing a child a drawing if the child doesn't yet know what a drawing is for. I'm 8. I said. I know. I was going to wait until you were 9. That's how old I was when he brought me. But we came today. There was an assessment today. I didn't plan the timing, so it was an accident. He picked up the bag. Some things are accidents, he said. And some things are just the right moment. Arriving while you were waiting for a different one. We left through the front door. The drive was empty, except for my father's truck. My father stopped at the edge of the porch. He put his hand on the post, a pine post, round, weather-worn, and I saw him do the thing he did, the listening thing. Then he went down the steps. I followed him. At the bottom, I stopped. I turned back. I put my hand on the post. I didn't know what I was listening for. I put my hand on it, and I stood there for a moment, and I tried to hear what my father heard, what his father heard, what Elias Vance had heard in 1923 when he chose this wood for this post on this porch of this house that was still standing. I didn't hear anything, or not nothing. The wood was cool against my palm, solid, the specific solidity of something that has been standing in one place long enough to have decided to stay. I took my hand away. I walked to the truck. My father was already at the driver's side. He looked at me over the roof. He didn't say anything. He got in. Somewhere past Glenwood Springs, my father said. What did you think? I looked out the window. I think the building knows, I said. He drove. Yeah, he said. It does. There is a drawing in our family, hand-drawn. 1923. The edge is brown from time. My father carried it for 11 years, in a bag, with a broken buckle. He was not waiting for the right moment. He was waiting for me to be old enough to understand what I was looking at. When he showed it to me, the right moment, and the right moment for me, happened to be the same day. I was 8 years old. I put my hand on a wall that had been standing for 100 years, and I felt something I didn't have words for. The closest I can get is, knowledge doesn't disappear. It goes into things. It goes into wood and drawings, and the way a ceiling is 14 inches lower in a kitchen, so that the people who cook there in January are warmer. It waits for the person who knows how to find it. Has anyone in your family left you something you didn't understand until you were old enough? I want to know what it was, and when you finally understood, I'll see you next week.